All right, guys, we are live. Thank you guys so much for joining. Welcome to the very first live stream. We're on the MBoards set here, and today we are building a electric skateboard. Well, we're building a mid-range electric skateboard. Overall, this budget would be about 600 bucks or so. But we have a couple upgraded things that we could make this price a little bit lower if you wanted to. But anyways, so let's dive right in. Definitely start dropping your questions. We got Maddie. She's got a microphone back there. So if you guys have any questions, hit them in the chat. She'll read them off to me when I have a chance between sections, and we'll start answering your questions. I hope everyone's quarantine is going well. I know it's kind of a rough situation for everybody, but I'm happy you guys were able to come join us, get your mind away from things, and yeah, so let's just dive into all the parts we're going to use. I have pretty much everything over here. I have a few things back there, and yeah, so to start, I'd like to go over the wheels. The wheels are my favorite thing ever. I love these wheels so much. We're using the 80 millimeter orangutan wheels in blue. Love these things. I just think they're so pretty. Like, I know it's kind of a weird thing to say about an electric skateboard part, or just a longboard part in general. But anyways, these wheels are just so cool. I think they're just really awesome. Next thing is our battery. We're using a 6S 2P battery, which is a great all-around, like, affordable battery. Honestly, it's very cheap. So we'll get about 16 to 20 miles an hour top speed with this thing, depending on how much the rider weighs and depending on gearing ratio and wheel type and all that. But anyways, about 16 to 20 miles of top speed, and then about 8 to 10 miles of range. So a really great all-around battery, especially in this little small form factor. I could literally fit it in my pocket, which is pretty cool. So anyway, so we're using that. Probably our most popular battery, honestly. Then for our ESC, we're using a VESC. So we can program this thing. I've already pre-programmed this today, so we're not going to get into programming just for the sake of time. Just one extra thing I just didn't want to have to do live, just because sometimes it takes a little bit of tinkering. We're going to do a total tutorial on this soon. But anyways, yeah, so best, we have a little USB port right there. Connect that to a computer, and you can change all the settings and all that, which is really nice. So super into that. We have a power switch, simple, goes between your battery and your ESC or VESC. So a lot of the basic ESCs have power buttons built in, but VESCs do not. So if you want to have like an easy way of turning your board on and off without having to unplug and replug your battery in all the time, just a simple one side goes to your battery, one side goes to your VESC, and you're good to go. Simple power button. So that's really convenient. Then for our trucks, we are using the MBoards trucks. They're just very simple, basic, pretty much the exact same shape as Caliber trucks, so all of the same motor mounts work, which is great. So love these things, so simple, and again, so compatible with pretty much any brand of motor mount, which is nice. For our motor, we're using a 6355 all around pretty nice motor. It's pretty dense, it's pretty beefy. It's nice. I like it. It's not the biggest motor in the world, but it's a good value for what you get out of it. So pretty good. Anyways, moving on, we have our remote. We're using a VX1 remote from Flipski, which is pretty much like the standard right now. Everyone seems to be reaching for this remote. It's just very simple to use. A lot of different features. So we'll actually open this up in a second. But anyways, then for our motor mount, we're using a premium motor mount. Again, we'll open this all up so you can actually see everything better. But this is my go-to. This is the only motor mount right now that we carry and that I have access to at the very moment. So we'll be using this. And then our wheel pulley, we'll be using the orangutan wheel pulley. So we'll work perfect with these. Pretty much it. And then we have our enclosure, which will house everything with plenty of space in this one, especially for this small little battery. So this will be great. Cool. And then for our deck, which I think is the only thing that I haven't really talked about, is short little deck. I've pre-drilled the holes today. So I made a whole tutorial on how to glue in your wood inserts and all that, and use those to mount your enclosure. Today, I just no one wants to sit here and wait for glue to dry, so I just I got a little extra hardware from the hardware store so we could drill straight through the deck and we could put this thing together much quicker and less downtime. So this deck is just from Skateboard. They're like a wholesale deck company. Their decks are okay. They're not. I can't complain about them, but the price is right. They're very cheap. I tend to reach for some cheaper decks just because we're here all the time building random stuff and testing things, and I ruin decks all the time, so I never really reach for very expensive decks. For my personal builds, I do like some more expensive decks, but for this one, Skateboard, I think this thing's like 18 bucks maybe. Like, it's so cheap. It's ridiculously cheap. This is the same exact deck I use for the boosted board mini build that I did on my personal channel. So you guys might recognize it from here, but it's a very short board, perfect for what we're doing today. So again, I pre-installed the gasket again because it's just another one of those tedious things that I feel like many people don't want to necessarily watch because it's just a little boring. But everything else though, we're going to do the motor mount and everything else like all live, so that'll be really fun. All right, cool. Okay, so now let's just clear this desk off. Let's get everything out of the way so I'm not knocking things over. So hopefully I can go this whole stream without dropping anything on the ground because, you know, I usually do that. So let's clear everything off. So Maddie, any questions coming in I can answer while I'm clearing this off?
Yeah, we got a couple. Someone is wondering how you attach the power button to the vest.
Yeah, sure. So power button in the vest. So pretty much we'll show this live, but there's a XT60 here, XT60 here. These just connect like that, and then your other one goes to the XT60 on your battery, and that's it. It just pretty much sits between your vest and your battery, and it's very simple. It's awesome because usually you could just plug this straight into your battery, but then you have to unplug it and replug it in to turn on and off, which isn't great for your vest over a long period of time. So anyways, so just it sits right in the middle, and then it handles, you know, anti-spark switch, so you're going to avoid all the sparks and all that when you plug everything in. So yeah.
We have a few questions about shipping, which actually I can answer. We do ship worldwide, so yes, we do ship to India. As for the 7S battery, we currently don't carry any 7S batteries. We carry 6S, 10S, and 12S.
Yep. Yeah, 7S is just really, really close to 6S. So in 6S, there's a lot more ESCs that are compatible with 6S batteries. So the speed bump that you get from running a 7S battery isn't necessarily worth it. So we just go 6S. That way everybody is more compatible with things. I'd hate to sell somebody a 7S battery and then them kind of being stuck with the ESCs that they can get for it.
Someone is asking if this build is going to be more powerful than the pre-built dual belt drive kit that we sell.
The pre-built dual, it's going to be close, honestly, because we have a 6355 versus two 5055s. I think the 5055 would edge it out just a little bit, just because you got those two motors, so you have a little bit more traction. So it would be very close, because the 6355 is a much better motor than the 5055. So we probably have to do a side-by-side drag race, honestly. But yeah, I'm not sure. That's very close. It'd be very, very close. So let's pop these wheels open. We're gonna get the wheel pulleys installed on first. Honestly, this is the most genius packaging I've ever seen. Is the orangutan wheels. It's just like pops open, everything comes out so nicely. I mean, it's just a little thing, so really it's not hard to impress me. All right, cool. So that's good. We'll flip it off to the side. We're doing a single motor today, so I really only need to focus on one of these wheels at the moment, and we'll get the. Cool. Yeah. So we're just using a bunch of Allen keys. We got our kit right here, so not too difficult. But you know, so we got the included hardware, the retainer, the pulley, bam. So yeah, this thing goes on pretty simply. You kind of just, I mean, many of you guys have done this before, I'm sure. So you guys know the drill. But if you're new, definitely one of those things that you got to kind of to learn. But you kind of just, we have a whole full tutorial on this if you were curious to know how to do this slowly. But anyways, any other questions coming in, Maddie?
Someone is wondering if we recommend doing dual vesks for hub motors.
Dual vesks for hub motors. Sure, why not? I mean, vesks are, I mean, it doesn't really matter what your motor type is. It just matters on what kind of control you want and what kind of a performance you're trying to get. I mean, vesks are just, no matter what motor you're deciding to use, just vests are just going to improve your control. So the more settings you have control of, the more performance you can really push out of your motors. So there's no reason to not use them. A lot of times hub motor users, not to say that hub motors aren't powerful, but a lot of the hub motor people, or people who reach for the hub motors, are just looking to cruise. They're not looking to try to, you know, inch every single bit of performance out of their board. So it doesn't really matter too much, but obviously I always recommend vests just because they're so nice. They're a lot more, they're more durable to me. I've always had a better experience with vests just because a lot of the times they're made with much better components, like soldered onto the board itself. So that's my opinion. But again, if you're just someone who's just looking to slap something together and get cruising, there's nothing wrong with like a basic ESC, really.
Some people are asking about emails. We do try to answer emails the same day we receive them or the next day, but we don't typically answer emails on weekends. So tomorrow is Monday, and we should be caught up on all emails tomorrow. So if you still haven't heard back from us by the end of the day tomorrow, please feel free to reach out again.
Yeah, like quarantine's been insane. Everyone's home and trying to do a project while they're home, and which is amazing. I love that people are home wanting to do something with their time, which is awesome. But that's resulted in a lot of extra emails. So typically we're not usually in office on the weekends. We try to take a personal day, try to spend some time, rest up, and then hit the week hard the next week. But we're here though. We are here this weekend, so we'll probably get most of those done today, and the rest of them on Monday. So if we haven't gotten your email, no worries. We'll get there. We takes a minute, but we're there. All right, cool. So this is what we have. Hopefully everyone's been paying attention. This is kind of a tedious thing, so it's taking me a minute, but there it is. All 5 screws go through the spokes of this back into here. So this is good. Bam. So that part's done. Great. Cool. So we'll set this to the side for now.
We do have a few people asking you to be specific about when and where you use thread locker during the build.
Sure. Okay, so this right now would be the perfect example. I actually have some thread locker. I'm not going to add it right now because I'm not going to go take this board out this second, but I would, if I'm going to anytime that I am about to go ride it, I'll absolutely. But right now this is just pretty much for the stream, so I have some right here. Anytime you don't have a nylon nut, which is already an anti-vibration type of fastener. So like right now, these don't have any type of additional way of preventing vibration. So that they're just simply screwed into the back of this metal. So right now, if these were a little longer and we had nylon nuts back there, you wouldn't have to do it. But just to keep everything nice, low profile, there's no way of those vibrations not getting to these. It's just a fact of electric skateboarding. So anytime there's not a nylon nut involved, so like your skate hardware, all of that has nylon nuts, so you wouldn't have to use thread locker for that. Your enclosure hardware is a good time to use it. Pretty much all the hardware on your motor mount, except for the 3 bolts or so that have nylon nuts, you would have to use it. So honestly, if you put on everything, you can't go wrong there. I mean, if you're worried that it maybe should have it, just throw it on there. Nothing ever bad happened from putting thread locker onto a nut that already has anti-vibration built in. You know what I'm saying? All right, cool.
All right, we've had quite a few questions in the last few minutes. So someone is asking about the pre-built single belt motor and if we still sell that.
We do not. No, we don't. And honestly, the pre-built dual 5055s, those might be going away soon too. I just feel like they're really expensive for what they are. I really don't want to sell them at $200. I feel like that's a lot for what it is. But it is what it is. So we don't sell them right now just because the original manufacturer had issues making them, and we're not the original manufacturer of that. So I have no control over that. So they just stopped. Originally they discontinued it. I think they might have it back now. I'm not sure. But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe we'll have it in the future. I hope so. I hope we can. I'd really like MBoards to just be a one-stop shop for any possible product you can think of for electric skateboarding. We have it. No matter the brand or no matter anything. I'd love to just have that, so then there's just one place to go. That's the ultimate goal. So yes, I'd love to have it back. Right now, there's not any specific plans yet. Okay, so the next thing I'm doing right now, just to keep everybody filled in and not go on a bunch of tangents, we're going to add our trucks to our deck so we can start adding our motor mount on. So yes, so we have all of our deck hardware here. There we go. Cool. So I'm using 1.5 inch hardware, which hopefully is long enough. I didn't really check before, but we should be good with 1.5 inch hardware in our 1/2 inch riser pads. Cool. We'll throw those in between our trucks and our deck. Cool. So the way that these trucks work are, you just throw the kingpins on the outside. Bam, bam. I did move the holes of this on this board. I moved them up a little bit because there wasn't enough room to keep our enclosure and our motor side by side. So I just moved these trucks a little bit up like that, and we will be good to go. Cool. So yeah, so I'm using 1/2 inch riser pads. Throwing those on there. Bam. Cool. Perfect. Yeah, so this part, maybe I should have pre-installed these before the stream just because this part's a little tedious as well. But that's okay. More time for questions, right?
We do have some people asking about if there's going to be any content coming with upgrading pre-built boards.
Yes. So right now, that is something I think is so important that no one's doing right now. So as soon as I can, I'm planning on buying at least one of every pre-built board that I can, every mainstream one. There's all kinds of different brands, but I want to get at least one Walgo, maybe of each kind they make, one backfire board, one maybe boosted, but I know boosted is kind of out right now. So what I'd like to do is buy one of every board, so of every mainstream board that a lot of people have, and start really focusing on making tutorials on how to fix them, because we get so many emails about people with broken pre-builts, and either the original company doesn't want to help them, or they can't help them, or they're not around anymore, and now they're kind of stuck with this board that doesn't work. So I hate that. I hate to see people stuck with something that doesn't work. That's why that's why I'm DIY. I made a whole video about it. People didn't like that I said a couple of those things, but yes, I do want to start making content about upgrading or even fixing pre-builts. So I think that's so important. A lot of people started with those, and they have them, and there's a lot of them have great parts inside. So just taking a lot of those parts and converting into something completely new is so important, especially saving money. I mean, you already bought all those components, you might as well use them, right? So yes, all kinds of pre-built stuff I would love to do. I just think it's a market that are something that people aren't taking enough time with. I mean, I feel like these companies that are selling thousands of boards, they just don't spend the time making the content that their customers need. And I feel like if they're not going to do it, I guess I'll do it, because I really enjoy. I have a video making background, so that's just kind of how we got our company started. I'm actually a film student, so that's kind of why I spend so much time on my videos, and I feel like the video component of business is so important. So yeah, hopefully that wasn't too long-winded. I'm sorry, I kind of get on little tangents, but anyways.
Someone is asking, probably if you have any suggestions, or I don't know, connecting a speaker to the battery in their board.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, that's possible. So what I would consider is find a speaker that maybe, I don't know how, so that's a tricky one. Only because I would have to look at what these speakers are powered off of. I would have to look. So if you can find one that's powered off 5 volts, which probably not. I would imagine most skateboards would be, most speakers would be maybe 12 volts or something. But if you could find a speaker, here's a good workaround. If you could find a speaker that has its own battery inside of it, that can power itself, so no matter what the voltage is, it's getting adequate power. And then what you can do is, we probably should try to find somewhere, find a supplier for them and get them on our website, just so people have the option. I can't remember the exact name for them, but they're they take a certain voltage and they step it down to whatever voltage you need. So for instance, we would find one that could take a 42 volt battery, downset that to 5 volts, and then you could have your speaker plugged in via USB, and it would constantly be charging itself from your original battery maybe. And then you could even wire a power switch to control whether or not your speaker is being charged, which I think would be the best way of going. Directly wiring it to your battery might be a problem. I would have to experiment with that. I'm sure there's a great way of doing it, but
I would definitely say too, an easier way it wouldn't be powered by the battery, but finding a way to mount just a Bluetooth speaker that is wireless that you could recharge, and then just being able to mount it to your board might be the easier way to go, just so you're not pulling power from your battery and having to worry about that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I feel like your battery for your board should be specific for your board. Now, maybe what you could do is have a secondary battery inside your board that's completely disconnected from your original battery board, so that way nothing's being compromised. It's not on the same circuit. And then you could have 2 charge ports maybe, which would kind of weird and maybe a little obnoxious, but I imagine that secondary battery would last quite a while. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. That's good. There's also a 3-letter acronym, or maybe 4. It's like a BEC or a UBEC. something like that. A lot of the people with a lot of those guys in there in the chat probably know have a little bit more, maybe a little more experience with a lot of the electronics than I even do. I have a lot of experience with the electric skateboard particular stuff, but then when you get into some of the more specialized or even generalized hobby stuff, I just, a lot of the electric skateboard stuff is very specific, and I know that stuff, but everything else, sometimes, gotta ask a friend. All right, cool. There, you got our first one on. Beautiful. Cool. That's good. I guess I'll do the next one. Sorry, this part's a little boring, guys. It is what it is.
Someone is asking if you're going to be using a BMS today.
Yeah, so actually all of our batteries have BMSs installed. So like a 6S 2P, even though this is so small, it shouldn't even be this big. But a lot of the space in this pack actually has a BMS built in. Then there's a dedicated charge port wire here, which we will add on later, which you'll see that in a little bit. But yeah, so all the BMSs are installed, pre-installed in our battery packs. So yes, we will be using a BMS, but it's already installed, so we don't have to worry about it.
Do you think in the future you'll be doing a tutorial on how to install a BMS in like a LiPo battery?
Maybe. So the only thing with that, I've done one in the past. The only thing with that is there are channels on YouTube that actually have done tutorials very well. And I feel like that if I can't do it better, then why do it? I think I need to maybe find a really good playlist of really good resources made by other creators and make like a curated list on our website just for people who are trying to get really into the DIY thing, that are trying to dive a lot deeper than the average DIYer, especially with building battery packs and stuff like that. So maybe in the future, but probably not, because it's very technical, and I would prefer to leave that to someone who spends a lot of their content creation power on batteries specifically.
Yeah, I would say if you do need help specifically with installing a BMS, shoot us an email, support@MBoards.co, and if we can't help you, we will link you somewhere that you can find the information that you need.
Yeah, we always try to, if we don't have the answers for you, or if we don't have the information available to us right away, I never just say, I don't know. I'll find someone who does know, find a video resource that would answer your question, and then you can go from there. I don't have all the answers. Sometimes some things are a little beyond what our articles have said and all that, and all the content on our website. So, but anyways, so hopefully that answers your question, but it kind of doesn't. But there's your answer. All right. Good. Cool. We're almost done with this, and then we'll get on to the more fun stuff with the motor mount and aligning our pulleys and stuff. That's a little bit more entertaining than watching someone put trucks on a deck. I know that's so exciting, but... Good.
Someone's asking about drop-down decks and if our kits are compatible with those.
So drop down, so are we talking drop through or are we talking drop down? So drop down, the deck goes here and it slouches and it comes back up. So each end is where you put your trucks, and the drop down just have like holes through them. Sometimes I'm going to assume you know what I'm going to assume that you're meaning drop down. Issue with drop down is there's just by nature of the deck a lot less clearance. So I know people really love those, but I usually say stay away from them because there's just not enough clearance to get a motor under there, to get an enclosure with batteries under there. So I would say they're not really compatible. Now drop through decks is where you put your trucks through the holes in each end of your deck, and those are typically compatible as long as you reverse mount your motors, or if you just mount your trucks on the bottom of your deck instead of through, which I know is kind of the whole point of a drop through deck, but So anyways, again, hopefully that answers your question.
Mike, are you going to be using a battery percentage indicator today?
No. So one of the awesome things about the VX1 is that you can solder a cable. There's just one little loose cable. So there's a bunch of cables for your receiver, and then there's an extra spare cable that you can solder directly to the positive lead of your battery, and then the little battery, it's not a percentage, but it's a little battery indicator, will be on your remote itself. So if you have something like that, I usually just don't use one, just to make the build a little cleaner. because I don't really need to know exactly what percentage it is. What it's a difference to me if it's 20% or 19, but those little, those 4 little bars that are on the remote, it'll tell me if I'm less than 25% or not, which is all I really care about. But if you really care about that exact percent, then totally, then something you definitely want to add. Okay, good. So we have our trucks on our board. We're gonna get our motor mount on there now because, that's usually the next step. Cool, I'm gonna get rid of all these wheels for now, get them off to the side. Nice clean work surface is always a good thing. Cool. Alrighty. Okay, so I told you I'd give you a closer look of this. So here's the motor mount. It's pretty simple. It comes with a motor plate, a C-clamp, a K-clamp, which is very stuck in the back. There we go. And then all the hardware that you need. Cool. So it's pretty simple so pretty much, okay, so back to the Loctite question. Pretty much all of these pieces of hardware will need Loctite except for the carriage bolts and these nuts, because they already have like the nylon anti-vibration nuts included. So anyways, hopefully that makes sense. But so the way that this goes on is pretty simple. So first you kind of want to figure out what side of your deck it's going to go on. So again, this makes like a little D shape, which is the same shape as your truck. And then you'll just slide that over the back of your trucks, and we'll find out what side we want to put it on. I usually like mine on my heel, and I ride this way. So, well, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to put it on whatever side. I'm not going to overthink it. Okay, I'll do this side. So to start, I usually take these and I start getting them together. So it comes with these 2 M5 bolts. So I'm just going to take the 2 M5s and throw these little lock washers on here. Cool. Throw them through. Let's get a little closer. Sorry guys, there we go. Got a manual focus lens over here, so I'll just kind of finger tighten them for right now, hand tighten them for right now, and then we'll go and tighten everything together. So now there we go. So now we kind of have an adjustable looking thing, and then we'll go here to our deck, slide that on, make sure it fits. Cool, looks good. And then we will move on to the next step, which is adding the motor plate to the C and K clamp. So let me double check things. I want to make sure, just so I can do it in front of everybody here. So the way that this works is, so this is the back of the board right here. You want to throw this on, and then depending on what side this is on, so your motor is going to attach to the side with the same side as the clamp, pretty much. So hopefully that makes sense. You'll see. So we want the motor to face this way, so we're going to go put the motor mount on this way. So now that we know how you should align it, this is pretty simple. The way that this installs is it's pretty nifty. So you just throw these in there, the little square necks line up with the square holes here. Bam, bam, cool. And then cool. So then once you do that, you can flip it over, and then you can just kind of hand tighten on here. Cool. So that way it's not going to fall apart on you, but now you have full range of. Cool. So now that it's here, it will adjust. You can kind of adjust it a little bit to get it right before you tighten it all down. So cool. Let's get all these baggies out of here.
Someone is asking about reverse mounting your motor mounts.
Yeah, so these particular mounts aren't reverse mountable, unfortunately. But I do have good news. We just sent in a few files to our motor mount manufacturer, and they are giving us samples hopefully this month. By the end of May, we should have samples. And then as soon as we approve those, we're going to have a full run of reverse mounts, which will be awesome. So excited. So it's a completely different design. We have more like an O clamp, so it's all one piece. Then it's a longer mount plate, so the motors can actually stick out the back a little bit more. And we'll actually have a crossbar as well. So if you're using two motor mounts, you have a crossbar to keep them like level, which is really nice. So we'll have those soon, but not quite yet, unfortunately.
All right, people want to know your honest opinion, DIY or pre-built.
Oh man, I already made a whole video on it. I'm on team DIY, and obviously like I have that opinion because I obviously own a DIY parts store, so obviously I have a skewed opinion, an opinion of, what am I trying to say? I have a biased opinion, so really, can you trust my opinion? I don't know, but to me though, I built my own PC. I've gone through a number of pre-built computers in the past. I like the customization part. I feel like is just where it's at. Just being able to decide what you want your board to look like and do, and upgradability. To me, there's just so many more benefits of DIYing something. Now, a lot of people were not complaining, but pointing out that many times that it costs more to build a DIY board. I think maybe I wasn't clear enough in my video, but it may cost you more out of pocket originally when you build a DIY board, but a month, 2 months, not a month, but maybe like a year down the line, when maybe your battery fails or your ESC fails, that's where you start to save money. Because many times, depending on the brand, now some brands are more serviceable than others, that's it. You buy a new board, most people would buy a new board, but now you can just pop that enclosure open because you built it, you know how it all works. You just pop that ESC out, you pop that battery out, and you place a new one from any company that you want. So that's why I'm team DIY, and that's what I think. I think value and customization is just a category that people maybe don't think about so much. As far as specs go, there are some really solid pre-builts out there that do really, have really great top speeds, really great ranges, but it all comes down to customization and upgradability and serviceability. So, anyways, yeah. Okay, so now let me get this into frame here. Okay, so now let me maybe flip this so you guys can see it a little bit better. Cool. All right, so now we pretty much take this, we slide it over here, and now we have a lot of motion here. So originally, I usually just bolt this down. Now it's not probably going to end up here, but I just bolt it down just so it's not moving on me. We are going to have to make an adjustment once we get a real pulley in there, just because we need all the pulleys to line up. So hopefully everybody can see this, and I'm not covering it too much with my hands, but all right. So that's on there pretty good. It's not totally tight, but now we have total motion of this here. So now what we'll do is we'll add our motor. So the way we do that is we just use, where did those bolts go? There they are, under the deck. Okay. So the motor mount comes with 4 little M4 screws that we use to mount the motor to the motor mount itself. So these little 4 holes right there, we'll use those. We'll just slide those through there, and then we'll screw them into the holes here. So, so now the thing that you need to decide now is where your wires are going to hang. So if you mount your motor like this, your motor wires need to come this way. So that doesn't make any sense. You want to turn this so that your wires are going to be kind of spit out right where they're going to connect with your enclosure. So you guys can see where my enclosure is going to be. So that will just slide through there. We'd line up the holes, and then we'll throw the screws right in there. So that makes sense, right? So hopefully, I mean, a lot of this stuff, once you know the steps, it's not very complex. There's just a lot of little nuances and annoying things that you kind of have to remember. And the amount of times I put a motor on and realized the wires were just not the best way, that's annoying, and you have to take your whole motor off and do it all again. So for now, we'll get this motor on. We'll get it the best, probably down. Yeah, perfect, cool. So now I'll start throwing these in. Again, I usually just kind of hand tighten everything originally, and then we'll go back and we'll tighten everything down a lot better. just because if you tighten everything down originally, like the first time, then sometimes you need to make those fine adjustments, and it's kind of hard to make those. So, anyways, and it's hard to. It's also significantly harder to build something with a camera, with someone's view in mind. I've learned that over the couple years of making videos. It's so much more difficult to build when you got a camera in between you and what you're working on. But is what it is.
Mike, we're getting a lot of questions about sensor wires on the motors.
Sure. So, originally, when we first started shipping our motors, we were using, the motor's right here. I'm working on it. So originally we were working with, we had sensor wires, but they were the small version. So they've two types of versions. They like a small, and I can't remember the millimeters off the top of my head. I apologize. Maybe we'll maybe make an article about it so you can determine the difference. But actually, I have a cable here. I can show you the difference. Cool. So, there is a full-size cable, which looks like that, same thing as our motor, and then there's a small cable which would connect into something like this. So it's much smaller if you can see it. I mean, it's not much smaller, but it's small enough. So anyways, so originally when we started shipping our motors, we used the smaller cable, and then you need to buy one of these to get it to connect to your vest, and then we switched to the motors to the full-size connector, so that way you can just plug the sensor straight into your vest originally. So yeah, are they asking if they should use one, or do they just want to know about it?
We actually have quite a few people helping out too in the comment section, so we appreciate that.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of it is installing it and the purpose.
Yeah. So the purpose of the motor. Let me try to make it where I don't ever want to overcomplicate things, and I don't want to explain something in a way where I don't want to make anyone feel dumb because they aren't.
We've got a pretty good response here that talks about that the sensor wire detects your motor rotation position, so it allows for smooth start. Because normally on a board, they're exactly right. You have to push off a little bit before you can accelerate on the remote, because otherwise you'll get some jolting and some shaking from your motor. So you don't want that. So if you're not using a sensor wire, you will have to push off to start.
Which isn't a big deal. A lot of people get very hung up on this push-off thing. I've never thought it was that big of a deal. I know, of course, it's nice to be able to just go. But if you just have to push off, a lot of people who are using like the 6355 and maybe some of the basic ESCs, the sensor wire isn't compatible. So the sensor wires on our motors are made for vests. And then when you use a basic ESC, they use a completely different sensor wire. So it's just a trade-off of using a cheaper... one of the cheaper ESCs, but pushing off is no big deal, but it is nice to not have to do that, obviously. Okay, so here's where we're at now. So now pretty much we've got our motor on there, it spins nice and freely, and now what we have is these 3 bolts right here. They're not tight yet, so now we have all this adjustment, which is great. So now what we really want to do is we want to make sure that there is we want to split the difference. So we can go all the way down here, which is lowering the clearance from the motor to the ground, which we don't want the motor hitting the ground, obviously. But we don't want to push it all the way up here, because then your motor can hit the top of your deck as you turn, which we don't want that. So we kind of want like a nice gray, like a middle area where you have plenty of clearance between the bottom of your deck and your motor, and then plenty of clearance between the motor and the ground. So hopefully that makes sense, but we'll have wheels on here too, which will increase that clearance as well. So right now, even with no wheels at all, it looks like we've cleared. So that's great. So then once we add our wheels, we'll be good to go. So that's some good news. So we'll throw this back down on here. Great. So now it's time to try to get the wheels and everything to line up properly. So I'm actually going to tighten this motor down. I'm going to guess for right now where it should be, and then we'll make some adjustments later. A lot of times you're just putting something somewhere temporarily until all the parts kind of come together, and then you kind of just finesse everything to make sure it all works. So cool. So what tool am I going to use for this?
Joseph and Dylan are wondering your thoughts on single kingpin versus dual kingpin trucks, because we currently only carry single kingpin trucks.
So okay, so the direct drives we sell do have double kingpin, but obviously they're asking about our regular trucks. So dual kingpin adds a secondary pivot point, so you can like carve a lot better. which is some people really like it and some people really don't based on just because like when you introduce a lot of speed into extra churning, speed wobbles can be an issue. So I typically like the single kingpin just because I don't need to carve that much. Like I'm pretty much I'm kind of a wimp when it comes to electric skateboarding. It's kind of it's ironic, but I like to just kind of cruise, just ride. I'm not really into the ripping down the street super fast and carving and all that. I'm pretty mild rider, which is totally fine. But if you like to carve and like really make those turns, yeah, then dual kingpin is better. We are currently our trucks aren't dual kingpin. If enough people showed interest, I would absolutely look into trying to make that happen. Oh, I don't want to get sidetracked and not show the build because that's why you're all here. Okay, so right now I'm using a wrench, just a socket wrench. You can use like a hand wrench if you want. I'm just doing this because this is what I have. Right now I'm just taking the carriage bolts right here, and I'm just tightening them down, which will lock in place our motor's position so it's not wiggling all around. So I'm just gonna do that. I know it's kind of hard to see, guys. It is what it is, I guess. Maybe I can flip it. There we go. Now you guys can see. That's much better. Cool. So we're just going to tighten this down so it's not going to move anymore. So these 3 nuts right here would not need Loctite. I don't think there would be an issue with adding some if you really wanted to, but these wouldn't need it. So for anyone who's wondering which ones should have it and which ones shouldn't. So, but these 2 back here absolutely should use it. You do not want your motor mount falling off your deck by not using that. That's something that should use it. The four bolts I put in here should use it. Absolutely, you want that in there. It's just, there's no harm that you can cause your board by adding Loctite. I mean, don't spill Loctite all in your motor. That probably wouldn't be good. But I'm talking, if you put them on your bolts properly, you're good. Okay, so now those are all tight. So now when I take this motor and I put weight on it or stress, it's not going anywhere. It's looking really good. It's nice and solid, not moving anywhere. So that's perfect. That looks really, really nice. This kit right here, I mean, that's just all black. Really, really nice. Cool. Looks really good. Cool. So I'm excited with that. I'm happy with that. So now we got to figure out where we need to move the motor mount and where we need to position it. It looks pretty good right now. It's looking like it's in a decent spot here, but we will see. We will see. Cool. So now let's get the wheel pulley.
Someone is asking about the specifics of the direct drives, like power, acceleration. Do you have a video on this, or is there one coming, or?
We do need to make more videos on the direct drives. I made the one video explaining my opinion on where the electric skateboard community would probably head in the next few years. But I didn't get into a lot of the specifics. By the way, before I forget what I'm doing here, I'm just adding some bearings to the wheels. I haven't done that yet, so we need to do that before we move on. And the way that I do it, just before I get into the direct drives thing, don't let me forget what question I'm on here. The way that I do it is I'm sure most people do it this way, but just thought I'd maybe save someone some headache if they maybe do it a different way. I just take my truck empty, throw a bearing on there, take my wheel, and then I just kind of and then press it on there until it pops in, and then I take that off, throw another bearing on there. Now, I was going to use a speed spacer kit, but for this video, I'm just going to skip it. It's just a little bit more of a pain to get it all to line up, but no big deal. So again, throw it on there, pop it on, cool. Now we got a completely set with bearings, so that's cool. So probably should do all the wheels now that I'm just sitting here doing them. Might as well. Maybe a good time. Okay, so yeah, so I'll do this while I talk about the direct drive question. I get very sidetracked. If you guys don't know me personally, I'm pretty scattered, so don't let me get off topic, Maddie. Okay, so the direct drives. I do really want to make more videos about them because I think they're so cool. They're just different. Like, they're very similar to hub motors. Let's be real. They're very similar, but there's just so much improvement on already such a sound, like reliability factor goes, and hub motors, really good. I mean, I really enjoy the hub motors. I don't like the way they feel. That's the only thing. They're just so hard because that motor it's dense piece of metal, and I don't like the way that feels. That's the only turnoff I have as far as hub motors go. But the direct drive solve all that issue by taking the motor out of the wheel, which is awesome. What was the specific question? I might have just danced around it.
No, that's okay. They're basically just looking for some points of the direct drives. So yeah, I think what Mike's getting at is that we plan to make some more informative videos about direct drives in the future. But for now, if you need specifics, again, just shoot us an email and we'd be happy to give you the specifics and help you figure out if that's the right setup for you. Okay, so let's do a couple rapid fire so we can get through a few of these.
Okay.
Do you think a single belt ESC can climb hills at about 10%?
Climb hill. Sure. How fast you're gonna go, I don't know.
Right, it might depend on the battery too.
It'll depend on your battery. It'll depend on your voltage. It'll depend on your wheels. Like what? So, the smaller your wheels, the better your torque and acceleration is, but the slower your top speed. And then the larger your wheels, the faster your top speed, but the lower your torque is. So if you have some smaller, so if you're concerned about hills, I would take your wheel diameter down. For sure. I think that's a quick and easy way of. Oh, I'm done with the wheel. I'm done with the bearings already. I guess I was just talking so long that I didn't even realize. Yeah, I think to your question, yes, a single belt ESC can climb hills at 10%. I think 10%, right?
Mm-hmm, that's correct.
I don't know what these grades are, but 10%, yes, yes, that's fine. Sure. All right, next one.
6S2P, is it airport compatible?
Not quite. So airports are usually 99 watt hours. This one's 129 watt hours. So we do want to make a air travel safe battery soon. We don't have one yet, just because I don't have a reason. We don't have a reason why we don't have one yet, but we can get one of those out soon. We just got to find a better. So what we need to do is find like a 6S 1P or 10S 1P using higher quality. Like Samsung 32s are nice and they're really good because when you throw them in parallel, they're awesome. But we need some cells that are high output by themselves, so that way we can keep our watt hour down but keep our power output up. So yes, we don't have. So no, 6S are not travel safe, but we will make some soon.
All right, so this is another opinion preference question.
Okay.
So guys, just remember that this is Mike's opinion, so you might not feel the same way, but
Well, my opinion is that FOC boxes aren't around anymore. Now you can buy them still, but unfortunately Inertian is no longer. I don't know if they will ever be back. It sounds like I'm not going to get into someone else's tea, but that was my first build. I used a FOC box and it was awesome. I actually, at the time, it was called Vesk X before they switched it to FOC box. They're very good. They're expensive, but they're very good. I really like them. I always had positive experiences with them. Very, very easily set up. So smooth, very reliable, highest quality. I mean, as far as I could tell, the highest quality components in a Vesk I've ever had. I have one sitting somewhere, my old one that I just haven't used in a while, which seems lame, but I have my old board hanging on the wall, which is probably in there. So my original build had one, and it was awesome. But the difference between FOC box and a Vesk, though? Okay, well, are they asking the difference between a FOC box or just between FOC and BLDC?
a little bit of both. It's kind of been a bit of a
well, so the
discussion.
whole. All right. We thought we lost the stream. We're good. Sounds like we're good. So, all right. So, back into building what we were doing. So we're good, Maddie? Yeah, we're good. All right, cool. All right. False alarm, guys. I thought we lost the stream, but we're all good. Okay. So, so now what we're doing, let me get you a close up of here. So, where we're at now. We have our motor in place, everything like that. We have our bearings in our wheels. That's great. We have our pulley on our wheels. Cool. So now what we can do is we can throw that on here. And now what our goal is right now is getting the this pulley to line up with the pulley that's going to go on here. So before we do that, let's get this pulley on there just so we can kind of get it in its place, and we'll go from there. Cool. Where Where is it? I have it somewhere. Here it is. Cool. All right, cool. So I have an 8mm pulley. So I just made a whole video about common mistakes, and one of the mistakes is, or common mistakes that builders tend to make on their first time around, or even their 10th time around. I've made some of these mistakes again and again. So, but we want to make sure we use the same diameter motor pulley that we have motor. It's just something so simple that we can easily overlook. So now the way that this goes on, it's very simple. So now I get so many questions about the keyways and whether or not you should use them. My very first build didn't use a keyway. All my builds after that never used a keyway. All I did was throw the set screw and make sure the set screw lined with the keyway little groove right there. And I've never had a problem. So I've never dealt with it, because one day I did try to use a keyway, and the keyway would just not fit within the keyway slot, and it was more frustrating than it was worth. So that's my opinion, and that's kind of why I don't use keyways, but the set screws seem to be great. All right, so let's install this. Hopefully I answered everyone's questions. Hopefully I didn't get distracted and bail on someone's question, but okay. So let's get this all situated here. Let me make sure we're nice and focused so you can see. Okay, so here's that little groove right there. You can kind of see that. I wish we could get a little closer, but unfortunately this is not a zoom lens. We're going to just throw that on there. We want like a couple millimeters away from the motor. We don't. One huge mistake people make, and maybe you should mention this, is they'll take their pulley and they'll push it all the way against the motor mount, and when it spins, it'll grind on your motor mount. It'll produce a horrible noise or even lock up. So you want to make sure there's a little bit of space between your motor pulley and your motor. So that's pretty good. There's a little bit of space there, and then we're just going to take the set screw on a little Allen key. Hopefully you can see that. Probably it's focused on my face. So anyways, I'm just going to throw that right in here and spin that around. Now this is another screw that you should use Loctite on. There's another one, because there's no anti-vibration anything built into these screws. So I'm just going to screw this in, make sure it's nice and tight. I'm going to screw it right down into the groove, so that way it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so now, bam, look at that. Now it's going to spin. It's not going to move on me. It's nice. So now I'm just going to, I want to be clear, don't skip the screw when you really build your board. I'm just going to, for the sake of time, but put both screws in, definitely. Okay, so now we're good. That's looking good. I'm going to throw the belt on here, and I'm going to try to get this all lined up. This part can be a little cumbersome, because sometimes this belt is stretched very tight and it's hard to get it lined up, but you just kind of stick with it. Yeah, so right now I can already tell you this belt's that's a 270mm belt. It's too tight. So what I need to do is I need to pull this off. Pull that off, and I need to extend my motor mount out. So there's a little bit of play that we can do. The whole point of this particular motor mount is that it's adjustable. So we need to loosen this, adjust it so it's farther away from my truck so my belt isn't so tight, which is just a quick couple of turns.
We do have a few people asking about what side you would mount the motor on. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is a preference kind of thing, depending on which way you ride. And I know Mike likes to have the motor on his heel, so he has a little bit more control over steering with that way.
So it's totally preference. So a lot of people who haven't made builds yet ask whether or not if I feel that the motor will pull to one side or the other. If I have one motor, will I feel like it's pulling to one side because there's only a motor on one side? The answer to that is no. Once you get weight on your board, it just pushes you forward. Now, if you take your board outside with one motor on it and there's nobody on it and you hit full throttle, it does curve a lot. But once you're on it, it's fine. Now, the way that I do it, as I put it on my heel, I just feel like having the power on my back foot, if for whatever reason I hit that throttle a little harder than I expect, when I kind of get pushed back, I want that weight on my heel. It could be a totally weird way of thinking, but it's the way I do it. And you know, if you have time one day and you want to tinker around, try both. Just throw it on your heel, go ride for a little bit, take it back home, uninstall it, reinstall on the other side, and just see how you like it, because it's totally preference. I throw it on my heel, and I feel like you probably can't go wrong doing that. But again, totally up to you. Okay, so now let me get you guys a close-up again of this, of what we got going on over here. So I'm gonna throw the belt on. So now I moved the belt, I moved the whole motor mount back, so it slides around once you loosen it. Moved it back, so now hopefully I didn't do all that for nothing. Hopefully, or did I just do the backwards thing? It was tight and I made it tighter. That was stupid. Yeah, that's what I did. Okay, so again, I built, you know, tons of boards in this, yet I still make silly mistakes. So it happens. It's just part of building. The cost of the build about 6 something. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but it's about 6 something. In the DIY world, it's pretty mid-range. So you could get, which seems maybe it might feel a little expensive compared to the pre-builts, and that's where, again, that argument comes in. For $600, you could absolutely buy a board that would probably outspec this one. But like, what if you wanted to add a motor in the future? Then you really can't. So, anyways, so it's about $600. Okay, so now I've readjusted this again. Now let's try it one more time. Hopefully this works now.
Mike, how can you tell if it's too tight?
Okay, so the way that you tell it's too tight is I can't even get the pulley around, or the belt around the pulley. It's so tight that I can't even wrap it around. So that's one way of telling. Another way, once I have it on, I'll show you how much play you should have. But yeah, so it's just so tight that I couldn't even. So like right now, I'm gonna take my thumb and leave it up against this belt and then just start rotating it, and there, it just popped right on. So right now, it's actually gonna be too loose. I'm not gonna go crazy making it perfect right now because I'm not gonna go out and ride it right now. So what you would want to do is you'd want to take your belt. So right here, you just take. I'm actually gonna make sure you guys can see this because I feel like this is a great question. This is too much play. You probably want there to be like, if you were to squeeze it and it was like this much, you'd be good. If it was so hard, like hard as a rock, that's not good because you'll snap your belts not the second, but you'll break them a lot faster. But like right now, this is too much play. So what happens is, let's see if I can produce it. When the pulleys are opposite each other, when you're hitting brakes and stuff, you'll start to feel the teeth like grinding because they're slipping because there's not enough tension there. So this isn't quite enough tension, but for all intents and purposes and showing you guys that the board works at the end, I'm just gonna leave it at that. But you really want to keep adjusting that motor mount back and forth until you really feel. Well, really what you can do is once it's on, you can loosen it, which is a really nice thing you can do. You can loosen it once it's on. And then you can pull the motor toward you, which maybe I should have done this originally. This is probably would make a lot more sense. You know, I get distracted talking to everybody. So now what I can do here is, let me show you guys. You can just pull this toward you, and what you'll see is the belt will get tighter. And once it's pretty tight, you can go back, and while holding it tight, you can go back and tighten everything back up. That is just so much better.
And what kind of problems might you
Beautiful.
run
Now that's a
into?
little tight. That's a little too tight, but hey, for right now, I'm okay with
That's
that.
That's actually a question. What if it's too tight?
Yeah, if it's too tight, then maybe nothing. Really, maybe nothing, depending on your situation or circumstances. But in theory, you're putting more stress on the belt than you need to. You can just snap your belts a lot faster, so it decreases the life of your belt. All right, so there's that. It's looking pretty good. So as you guys can see, as I turn the motor or wheel, it'll spin my motor. That's perfect. That's looking really good.
All right, I'm going to stop you really quick because there's 2 questions that have been asked a couple times, and I feel bad we haven't answered them yet.
Okay, sure.
Do you have any helmet recommendations?
Triple Eight is a good one on Amazon. They got some. You know what? That's a great video idea. We need to just make a whole video on helmets. Why not? That's a great video. Because that's not something that we're probably going to offer or sell because they're so big. I'll leave that to someone else. That's why we don't sell decks either. They're just so bulky and big. I don't want to deal with them. I'm not gonna lie. I just don't really want to. Maybe in the future, because I do want to be that one-stop shop I was talking about. But yes, let's make a whole video on really solid recommendations. I'm going to ask a whole bunch of riders to see what the recommendations are, get a really nice list together, and make a whole dedicated video for you, because that's a lot better.
All right.
Yes.
Good enclosures for tennis 4Ps with 2 vesks.
So right now we have 2 sizes of enclosures. We have this one, and then we have this one. So there's 2 sizes, right? The Tennis 2P pretty much fills this one, or Tennis 4P, I'm sorry. Tennis 4P pretty much fills this one completely. The 12S 4P doesn't even fit in this one. So what we're doing right now is we're making an even longer version, which will fill out a very large deck. Not that large. I mean, it'll fit on something like back here, one of those. But something that'll fit a Tennis 4P and very wide ESCs. So that needs to happen. There is one on Amazon that's pretty good. It's not the most design-worthy thing ever, but it works. And I will post that somewhere. I'm not sure where.
Or again, you can always message support.
Or
We'd
just
be happy
message
to
us. Yeah,
link
we'll
it.
shoot you. Well, if you're looking for one that you can't find, we're not going to say, sorry, we don't have it. We're going to send you something that works. We'll send you a link of something. So...
We do have a suggestion for an MBoards helmet with lasers and fake jet turbines on the back.
Yes, let's do it. Okay, so back to the build, because I know that's what we're all here for. This is where we're at. This is looking good. So now it looks like I guessed the motor mount pretty decent. That's pretty good. I mean, the spacing could be a bit better. Well, actually, no, that looks pretty good. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I did a good job. Pat myself on the back for that one. First time, cool. So I'm not gonna even have to mess with anything. Great. So I'm just gonna get this wheel put on there. Or maybe I didn't do a good job. Because there's not enough axle here. Huh. So maybe I didn't do a good job. Maybe I do need to move this back, because right now I'm thinking I'm thinking maybe my pulley is hitting my mount, preventing the wheel from spinning all the way around, from getting all the way around. It's funny because I don't hear it rubbing, or maybe I do. Yeah, so right now, let me get this out of the way. So right now it's preventing, let me see if I can get that in. There's very little axle left, so there's not enough room for my my truck nut to go on. So that's a problem. So let me move. So I have to take my pats back, because I apparently didn't do the best job I thought I did. So let me just move. So it's really easy. So actually, before I do this, might as well show you guys what I'm doing. I'm literally just going to loosen this a bit, just a tiny bit, enough to get it to move. Okay, so that's loose. And I'm just gonna wiggle it, shimmy it over. Just shimmy it over. Oh, there we go. Look at that. The wheel just moved back. And I have plenty of axle now. Beautiful. Just gonna shimmy it, shimmy it, shimmy it. Looking good. Great. So now I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna tighten it. So it's not a big deal. I mean, yeah, sure, I didn't get it the first time, but you know, that's okay. Not a big deal. We'll go back, we'll fix it. It's kind of the best way of doing it, it seems like. There we go. So now this is feeling good. This is looking good. It spins a little bit. Great. The tension's good. So here's a great example. This is some good tension right here. When you squeeze it, that's pretty good. I'm liking that. I like to see that. Cool. It's not too tight. It's not tight enough. I would say too tight's better than not tight enough, because the only crash I've ever had, knock on wood, is because my belt wasn't tight enough, and I only had one motor. Wasn't tight enough, and I'm hitting the brakes, and the belt's spinning. The belt's slipping, and I'm like, great. So pretty much my brakes are not working. And I slam into a curb, and I fall into a bush, and you know, it happens. But I was very lucky I landed in a bush, let's put it that way. But yeah, so definitely if you're gonna make that error, make it a little too tight, because a belt's $10. Again, though, if your belt snaps, you're also no brakes. So that's also a thing to consider. But anyways, I would say tighter is better than loose, I guess, as far as your belts go. But anyways. All right, so now I'm just taking my skate tool and just tightening this. little too much, and then bring it back. Cool. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So there's that. How are we doing with spacing here? Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, so now with the enclosure on, we have plenty of space. And now this is another thing you guys gotta watch out for. When you are assembling, oh, this camera. When you're assembling, you wanna make sure there is enough space between your enclosure and your motor. Because as you lean on your trucks, your motor moves as well, and you don't want that to dip onto your enclosure and melt a hole in it. So that's not good. Okay, so that's looking really nice. I'm liking that. Let me throw on, while I throw on all the other wheels. Maddie, do we have any other questions?
Oh, this is a good question because I know we're talking a lot about Loctite.
Sure.
If you need to fix something, what's the process like unscrewing it after you've already used Loctite?
It's fine. There's more resistance than there was before, but now there's a couple different versions of Loctite, and I don't want to give you the wrong colors. It's like rated by colors. There's like a semi-permanent one or a temporary one, and there's a permanent one. I've seen people use a permanent one and still get them off properly. I usually, yes, we use blue. So it's also weird. It comes in a red tube, but it is actually marked as blue. So this is the one I use, and I like it. It works. So this one's removable. There you go. So there's the answer to that. Removable. It's more resistance for sure, but it's not the end of the world. Like it's not so hard you can't get it out. Now, people who are using super glue and stuff, I've seen that. I can't speak for that, but hey. Anyways, okay. Cool.
Someone is asking about the thickness of the casing for our direct drive motors. I'm not sure if you know that off the top of your
The thickness
hand.
of the casing? Oh, like the motor casing? I don't want to say the wrong.
Yeah,
wrong
I would say message support, and we could sit
Yeah,
down
I
and get
don't.
that measurement for
Any
you.
specific numbers, unless it's like a quick mile per hour or range or something. I don't want to give anyone wrong information right now. I'm not perfect. I use cheat sheets. I have all my data written down so that way when someone asks, I give them the right stuff, and I don't think anyone wants to see me scroll through my phone for 5 minutes looking for the information. But I'll get it to you. If you have a very specific question like that, email us because I'll sit down and I'll find the data for you.
And I believe it's the MBoards enclosure that you're using, not the extended, correct?
Right. I'm using the normal size one, not the extended would be so crazy with the 6S2P right now. So yes, just the normal one. This is actually going to be a little too big for what we're using. It's not a problem that it's too big, but we could actually go smaller and still fit everything we want to fit inside of it. So that's great. Okay, so this wheel's on. Great. I just got to get the front ones on and we'll be good to go.
Mike, how big is the gap on the enclosure for motor cables?
I wish it was a little bigger, not gonna lie. So this is what the gap looks like. You know what? Let me go to this camera here. That's what the gap looks like. Now with the gasket, what I actually usually do is I have my gasket come here. I slice my gasket here and here, and I keep the gasket going this way. So that way this hole is pretty much doubled in size, and that seems to work a lot better. I wish this was a little bit bigger, but we really wanted it to be very tight so that way no extra water or dust would get through there. So your cables are pressed pretty firmly in there, which isn't the best thing in the world, but again, if you cut your, let me, right here. So we actually skip a screw hole if you notice in the gasket. If you just cut it like there and there, it'll make that hole a little wider for you. So you can run a lot more thicker cables through it like we are today. So anyways, hopefully that answers your question. I don't know the exact number on that, unfortunately. Not off the top of my head, at least. Okay, so now here we go. We got we only got 2 more wheels to go. I know how long have we been streaming for?
1 hour and 16 minutes.
Oh, wow, this is taking a while. I was like, oh, we're going to build this thing in 45 minutes, call it a day. Nope. How many people are watching? I haven't even noticed.
82.
Oh, very cool. Thank you guys for watching. Yeah. What am I looking for? I'm looking for... Cool. Yeah, so now I'm using just a speed spacer kit. I'm not actually going to use the spacers. I'm actually just going to steal a couple of the washers out of here. These trucks were used by me previously, and I lost the washers off of them, so I'm going to steal a couple washers. Just so that the truck nut's not going straight onto the bearing. You know, I'm going to make sure those bearings are spinning nice and, oh gosh, freely. Didn't drop it, didn't fall on the floor, doesn't count. All right. So now this is a good way of testing whether your wheels are, that's obviously not great. Now you don't want to overdo it either. I'm going to overdo it just to show you guys. Okay, so, well, actually, go a little bit more. That is, let me show you that's not acceptable. You can't do that. You're going to crush your bearings like that. So you want to just back it. You can go there and then just back it off a bit so it spins and it doesn't move back and forth. There's a happy medium there. So that's how you do that. Now, it's pretty basic, but hey, I might as well cover it while we're here, right?
We do have a question about belt covers and whether or not you think they're necessary.
I think they look cool. I think they just look cool in general. But are they necessary? Well, I mean, no. To me, not really. They do serve a purpose if that's what they're asking. I mean, they do keep debris.
The specific question was, should I use them? So.
Oh, if it's a hassle to get them, you're fine. If you want them because you like the look or whatever, sure, go for it. But you shouldn't or should, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't really matter. I mean, here's the thing: if you want to take your board maybe through grass a lot, that's probably good, because a lot of times I've done that and I've gotten grass all up in my all my pulleys, which is not a big deal, though it doesn't matter that much. But it will keep like sand and stuff from getting in there. It does serve a purpose and they are nice, but like, I wouldn't stress so much about it that that you're scared to ride your board without it or something. All right, last wheel, and we will move on to getting all of our electronics out, which is definitely the most fun part. Home stretch, guys. Home stretch. Cool. Maybe I should have, pre-installed my bearings and my trucks and all that instead of making you guys sit through 30 minutes of nonsense. But hey, at least we got some questions answered.
Well, that brings us to a good point about we would love to hear what you guys have to say about what videos you want to see us do, whether it's more builds or even just like a straight Q&A where Mike can really sit down and focus on all your questions and getting those answered. We'd love to hear your suggestions about what you guys would like to see, because we'd love this to become more of a regular thing. So.
Yeah, I'm having a great time with streaming right now. This is my first time doing it, and I think it's a great time being able to talk to you guys real time. I'm thinking maybe if you guys are into it, if enough people want to watch, I don't want to, I was so scared today we were going to log on and start streaming and 3 people were going to be watching. Now that I've seen that there's enough people who are interested, if you guys would be interested in something like, I don't know, just sitting down, maybe it won't be building next time, but maybe sit down, talk about electric skateboards. Maybe you guys can send some photos in of your boards and I can maybe review them, or, something, just talk about anything. So maybe if you guys are into that, I'd be happy to do that, because that sounds like a lot of fun to me. Just pass your time here in quarantine together, Okay, so let's do our electronics. So right now we have our flip ski remote, we have our battery, we have our Vesk, which is pre-programmed, and then our power switch. Cool. So let me get here. So very simple. I mean, everything goes together great. So you just pretty much take your phase wires, plug them all in. Now I already programmed mine, so I'm not going to talk about that today, but a lot of times it'll work right out of the box. Okay, so those 3 phase wires, bam. So now if you find that maybe your wheel is spinning the wrong way, you can just take any 2 of these wires, any 2 of them, unplug them, and then switch them and plug them back in, and then your motor will spin the other way, which is awesome. Now we are doing FOC mode today. That's just the way that I programmed this one, just because it's kind of more straightforward. So now we have our sensor cable here. There's only one slot that it fits into, which is, actually there are 2, but we want to go into slot 2, which you can't see this on the stream, but on the back of these connectors are labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. This will go on the back of 2. Is that correct? Yes, that should be correct. I'm actually going to do the responsible thing and just double check, because why not? Here we go. Number 2 is sensor cable, which would go down to this one. Yep, I'm right. Cool. Perfect.
Mike, are you aware of what size deck that is?
You got a tape measure somewhere? I can measure it really quick.
Yeah, I can go grab one.
Yeah. All right. She'll go grab a tape measure. I want to say this is like a 30-inch board, maybe. Yeah, maybe even less. We'll find out for you. I don't know off the top of my head. I can't remember. I remember that I checked all the sizing and spacing and all that prior. But, okay, did I show this getting connected? I'm not sure. I'm going to do it again. So this is the sensor cable connector. This is where this would plug into. You just plug right in like that. We're good to go. We're not going to use this. This is the PPM wire for one of the other remotes. We're actually not going to use this today. We are going to use through the UART port. We'll use the Flipski remote. Okay. So now we're just going to plug in the only side that would actually fit into here. There. Bam. And then we'll fit the battery. We'll plug that into there. Cool. Perfect. Thank you. Let's see. This is approximately, it's just under 30, maybe 29 and a half, 30 inches. So I was relatively close, and it's a nice wide board. It's like 9.5 inches wide.
Can you address the sensor for this board? You're going to be running the sensorless, right?
No, this board we're running censored, actually. Yeah, we're using a VESC, so all the sensors all are compatible. If we were using like a basic ESC, we would run sensorless, no problem. But today we're going to use a sensor because we have it and might as well. But it wouldn't be a huge deal if you decided that you didn't want to. But yeah, I'm going to use it just because I have it and it's all working and everything. So great. So that's all. So this is all of our electronics. That's really pretty much it. I know we do have to install our receiver still, but that's it. We got a power switch, we have our VESC, we have our battery, all in one giant line, and in our motor as well. So now let's pop open this. Okay, so we have our instructions. We have if you're using a motor that has the smaller motor sensor connector, they give you an adapter, which is awesome. Here is the receiver cable. Here's an extra cable. Oh no, yeah, this is the extra cable in case you need one to do the battery monitoring thing with the remote. Then you have your receiver with some pins, nice and simple. A charger for your remote, and then the remote itself, which is honestly one of the most comfortable remotes I've ever felt. Like, I really like it. I really enjoy it. Now I don't know how people feel about this one. I really enjoy this one, but I swear remotes are like the biggest controversial topic of electric skateboarding. Everybody has a very strong opinion, it seems like. Okay, so the way that this works is, let me just get a little closer. So you have a little, it might be hard to see on the stream quality. I'm not sure how great the stream quality is looking right now. But you have these little letters, V, BR, X, 5 volt, whatever. All these pins are labeled. And then you just take this one and you label this. The red is the 5 volt. So just line that up like that. Bam. Connected. And we'll just take this connector and we'll throw it down into the VESC. Cool. So now, again, if you want to refer to the paper, just to be sure that everything is going together correctly, it is going to go into the communication tab, which is number 3. Great, which is on the left side. Yep, okay, great. That's what I thought. Just want to make sure. Might as well just double check. Okay, plug that in. Great. So now, this is what I was talking about. So we have our receiver, and we have this extra loose wire here. It's this white cable. What you can do is you can solder this straight to, now I would do it on the power switch over here. No, I'm sorry, over here. You just solder that to this red lead here. And now the receiver has your voltage data from your battery. And based on what you've programmed your VESC at, it will know how much battery you have left, which is very cool. So yes, I think, unless you have to program it on the remote. It's been a minute since I haven't actually set this up. I set this up once before when I received these originally, and I haven't done it since. So I need to do that. I'll probably do a whole video on this remote because it's so nice. But cool. We're gonna skip that though. I'm not gonna do that today. It's just this is a little something extra we don't need to get involved with right now. Okay. So now before I put it all together, let's. Oh, our second camera. This one. Is it dead? Yeah, it is. I need to switch this battery really quick. No big deal. I knew that was going to happen. Bam. Cool. Was it black for a minute? Is that why?
It just started.
Here we go. There it is. Yay, we're back. Okay. So now before we put the case back on, just like PC building, it's bad luck to put your case on before you test everything. You want to put the final panel of your case back on. So I'm going to, this would be very awkward if it doesn't turn on right now. Turn the battery on. That's good. We have power. We have, oh, here we go. Let me move this back into view. We got some status lights here on the ESC. I'm going to hold this down. Great. We got power here. I'm going to move this over so you guys can see it run. There it is. There it is. And it looks like my motor's backwards. So no big deal. It's fine for now. It doesn't really matter. But we would just be switching some wires. But yeah, there we go. It's working. Cool. There it is. So now it's pretty much done at this point. I'm going to throw the case on it. I'm just going to throw a couple screws down in it. Now I did drill all 16 hole or 15 holes. I'm going to put like 4 on just for the sake of time, just so I can show it to you guys done and complete. Obviously you want to cable manage the best you can. I'm just going to kind of stuff all the cables in right now. Don't follow these practices, you know, cable manage, make sure your vest has plenty of airflow, all that kind of stuff. Not airflow, but just make sure it's kind of got its own area in the case. You know, you want to make sure it's kind of by itself. Okay, so now we pretty much, I mean, if we can, just kind of just throw the case over the top of it. I mean, this is definitely not the best way of doing it, but hey, it works, especially for right now. What I would really do is I would take some double-sided 3M tape. I take some of this stuff. I would double stick tape everything down onto the deck itself.
This is a good time since it's actually in frame. The white wire.
This one.
Yes.
Yes. So I touched briefly on it. This wire right here. If you solder this wire to the positive lead of your battery, it will transmit that voltage data to your receiver, and that's how your remote knows how much battery you have left. So right now it thinks our board's dead because there's no voltage coming out of it. But if this was connected, it would show a voltage. Well, that's weird. Yeah, okay. Well, anyways, okay, so it's blinking right now, so it thinks it's totally dead. So that's how your remote would know how much battery you have left. It's based on the voltage coming out of your battery. So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, so I'm actually going to turn this off while I get all this started. So I'm going to pull the power switch off of this because we're going to run it through one of the holes in the enclosure. So yeah, let me just kind of get this all organized the best I can.
Mike, have you ever seen a quad motor setup?
Oh yeah,
What do you think
I
of
have
those?
personally never built one. I just cost a lot of money to do those. Yeah, I mean, I've seen some insane builds. I mean, the forums are crazy. The forums, the people on the eSkate forums do a wonderful job building. People are insane with the amount of time they spend. Quad, to me, I don't know. To me, I would never build one. It's just a lot of money for just pretty much 4 motors to me is pretty much like a because I could kind of thing, not because it really serves. I mean, you have great traction and acceleration. Let me tell you, you'll be able to bomb up hills like no one else.
Not a ton of range, though, I imagine.
I imagine, yeah, your range isn't going to be great. You're going to need one hell of a battery to make sure you can supply all the power to all those motors. You're going to need 4 vests, which is now you're getting into some major money. So, you know, probably I wouldn't do it. I've seen people do it. It's insane. But I feel like dual motors is great, honestly.
I feel like this has been a reoccurring question, too, about battery cells that we use.
Yeah, we use Samsung 30Q cells, so they have each cell is rated at 3,000 milliamp hours, can output at 15 amps continuously. We run our batteries at the least at 2P, so 2 cells in parallel. So each pair can output 30 amps continuously, which is great at such a small battery like this. But meaning that our 4P batteries can output at 60 amps, which is awesome.
And what's the difference between those cells and Tesla battery cells?
Okay, so the Samsung 30Q cells are 18650 cells, so they're measured 18 millimeters diameter and 65 millimeters tall. The Tesla batteries are 21700s, so those are 21 millimeters wide, which is a little wider, and then 70 millimeters long, which is about 5 millimeters longer. Pretty much the same thing, except the chemistries are different. So cells are made by Panasonic, Tesla cells, or they used to be. I should know this, but they do make their own batteries. I don't know if this is in collaboration with Panasonic or if they've bought the intellectual property to just produce the same chemistry cells. But those are made by Panasonic, and those have a little bit. I don't know the exact specs of the Tesla cells, to be honest. They use a lot of cells in parallel and in series, so it's hard to say. Their cells don't need to have a whole lot of output if you're going to put 30 of them in parallel. So I'm not exactly sure. They're very, very similar. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's very similar technology. It's just the way, do they want more capacity? Do they want more output? It just all comes down to that. Okay, so hopefully I didn't answer on that question too much, but let's get this case on. Oh yeah, before we do that though, let's take this off. So the best part about these are they come with these thingies. Bam. Let's just throw that through there, and we'll reconnect that in a little bit.
To answer a few questions about sales, we usually do one big sale a year during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. It's usually at least a few days long. But right now we do have a coupon code SAVE10%, and if you use that at checkout, you'll get 10% off your whole order. That cannot be combined with the free shipping coupon. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
And that's unfortunate. Our system literally will not allow us to set up 2 coupon codes. It's like, I don't know, man. It's so strange. Like, I wish I could, but like, I literally can't. Like, it will not allow us to do it, which is really frustrating. Because sometimes I feel like 2 coupon codes would be awesome, but it is what it is. I can't. I'm not gonna yell at Shopify for it.
So, what's gonna give you more range? 1 motor or 2 motors?
So, it's funny because you would think in your head, at least my head, this is the way I thought about it originally. I would think, let's pretend I'm 100 pounds, right? Just to make the math easy. I'm obviously not 100 pounds. You can see me, I'm not 100 pounds. But let's pretend you're 100 pounds. With 1 motor, that motor is lugging 100 pounds. But with 2 motors, it's splitting each, now they're each running 50 pounds. And to me, in my head, I'm like, oh, so the motors don't have to run so hard. So you get more range out of it because they're not running so hot, so hard. Both of them are being a little more efficient. That's just not how it works out. The math doesn't work out that way. The 2 motors are just a little less efficient at it. So you end up actually losing about 20 to 25% of range by adding a second motor, which stinks. But again, you're not really going. If you got 2 motors, range probably isn't isn't what you're really after. You're probably more after that speed or torque.
So before you put that on, does the charge port have a nut to secure it to the enclosure like the power button does that you just showed?
Where is it? Oh, I've already installed it. So this one does. So we ship, depending on like when you get a battery or what we have in stock, either you'll get the metal one that has the nut, or you'll get a black one that doesn't, but that one's got it's like plastic and has ridges, and you just push it through a hole that's slightly the same, like slightly smaller than it, and it does the same thing. So anyways, it just depends when you guys get one. So sometimes you get a plastic one, sometimes you get a metal one. If you want a metal one for sure, We do have them as extra on our website, and if you get one, then we'll definitely give you a metal one. It just depends what we have in stock, so we would never hold someone's order for a battery based on the charge ports we have. So we have some black ones, and we have some silver ones. The black ones don't come with them, the silver ones do. So that's pretty much how that goes. We just want to make sure that nobody's battery order gets held because we don't have the right charge port. That seems a little silly, right? All right, so now I'm just trying to get all these wires to kind of hang out in here. You know what? I might take the extra time and cut that piece of the gasket out like I was talking about. I'm gonna grab my blade. Or not. All right. Okay, maybe I won't. I guess I don't have my blade on me. That's okay. I'll try to do it with a flathead. That's no big deal. All right, so I'm just gonna try. Let me show you guys what I'm doing here. I'm just taking this flathead and I'm just making a little groove in it right here in the center. And what I'm doing is I'm gonna rip out this this piece of gasket here because it's just. It doesn't really need to be there. What it's there for is making sure my cables are nice and snugly added to the bottom of my enclosure. But to me, I feel like it adds a little bit too much pressure. Oh, yay. Thank you so much for this. It adds a little too much pressure to the cables. I don't like that. Fun fact, here's my blade. It has my name on it in the Shrek font, you know. Don't ask me why. I'm not sure. Here you go. So I'm actually going to go through here, and it's a little, I should have done this before I added all the stuff, so now we're a little close quarters here. I don't want to, my blade's a little too close to things that I would prefer, but that's okay. Just going to cut that out.
I do want to clarify something that Mike said earlier about discontinuing our pre-assembled belt kits. I don't think we're planning on discontinuing the entire line. I think it's just one specific model, so I wouldn't worry about those going away anytime soon.
We have plenty of them in stock right now, so I wouldn't stress. And the manufacturer's continuing to make them, so as long as they keep making them and aren't like making the prices, like I refuse to carry those and charge you guys like $300 for them. That's insane. So if that's what the manufacturers are going to make me pay, I'm not going to do that because I think you guys would have a much better time with, if you're going to spend that much money, might as well do motor mounts and separate motors because I don't feel good about that. So if the manufacturers are going to take advantage of us, we're not going to pass that along to you. We're just going to not carry them. But right now everyone's being chill, so we're good. All right, let's put this case on. Did anyone else have questions about what's happening inside of here?
No, but can you just one more time give the range and the top speed that you have?
Yeah, so the top speed of this build will be 18 to 20 miles an hour depending on how much you weigh and what wheels you're using and the gearing ratio and all kinds of stuff. So about 18 to 20 miles an hour, that's a good, a generalized top speed. And then the range will be about between 8 and 10 miles of range. Obviously, if you're full blast the whole way up a hill, it's gonna be less, but if you nice normal riding about 8 to 10 miles, which is pretty good for this small of a battery pack, I got no complaints about that. That's pretty good. I wish I had some cable ties, but I do not. That's all right. Okay, so before I just throw that on here, we want to take the charge port. Oh, you can't see. There we go. This is the charge port cable that comes out of the battery. We're gonna just connect that here with the charge port. Bam, like that. Cool. Then same thing with this cable. We're going to find our power switch again, and we're going to just slide that right back into there. Cool. So now everything's connected. Now I can turn everything on from outside the board. I can charge it from outside the board. Everything's looking great. Everything's looking good. Cool. All right, let's get this thing closed up. I'm tired of looking at the insides here. Let's get it all closed up. So this is probably a little close for my liking, so I'll show you guys what I'm talking about here in a minute. Actually, you can probably see here. These wires are a little close to the motor. Now, I don't think they're gonna hit, but hey, it could happen. So I would probably move this truck back. So I drilled new holes and moved the front truck. I moved the front trucks up a little bit to give more room. Obviously, I have extra room up in front here. that I could have moved this up to give some more space. So I probably would have or should have done that, but that's, you know, again, for these purposes, I can't be a perfectionist or else we'll be here for 4 hours. So let me grab. So again, we usually use nice black hardware in the wood inserts, but again, I don't want to sit here and wait for glue to dry. So I just picked up some hardware at the hardware store. So they're bright chrome and silver. They're not going to look bad. They're just not going to look as nice as black hardware goes. So I would, in a perfect world, would have ordered black hardware originally, but that's okay. So right now we're going to do the method where you take your hardware, and you push it through the front and through the enclosure right here. So you can see this, it's through here. And I'm just going to take one of these nuts and I'm just going to add it on top like that. This is the fastest way of doing it. And honestly, I maybe need to make a survey or something and find out, would people rather do it this way or would people rather do the insert way? I feel like the insert way it gives you a much cleaner look, but I feel like it's more difficult to install. So I definitely want to make sure everything is so easy that it's not even a question. But, you know, a lot of times people really want that. I guess maybe the people who want the wood inserts, let them go get their own wood inserts maybe, and just give everybody the easiest way. It's probably the best way of going about it, but you know, there's so much to think about. My preference isn't always the right way, so I have to always remind myself that the way that I like to do things isn't necessarily the easiest or the way other people want to do things. So, I'm probably not going to do grip tape today. It's just, you know, it's just a pain. I hate doing grip tape. That's probably my least favorite part about doing the build. But what I would do, I'll show you guys what I'm going to do with the grip tape if I was going to do it fully, because I'm really liking what people are making right now with it. I would probably do the hexagon grip tape kit. Let me get you one up close look at this though, because I want to make sure everyone can see what's happening here so that no one is confused. Okay, so I'm going to throw this right through here, and it's going to come up through that hole right there. And then take a nut and then turn it with my hand. So now really, these are just hand tightened. So obviously this is not ready to ride. But at this point, we have a fully functioning skateboard. I've only added 4 out of the 15. We really should add them all. But for time's sake, this is good. Now let's just make sure it still works after I put the case back on it. On. And remote. On. Oh yeah, oh yeah, that's awesome. All right, well there it is. So I guess I'll show you guys one more thing about the grip tape, and then we could call it a day. Any other questions that I maybe haven't gotten to yet? No? All right, cool. Okay, so what people are doing with this grip tape. So we have this hexagon grip tape. I've seen it all around the skate community. We have a laser cutter, so we're like, we'll make some. So you can get these little hexagon grip tape pieces, and with the we'll send you this little spacer. And what people can do, or what builders can do, is they can use a spacer, put one down, right, and then put another one down, and then obviously you'd peel the back off. You peel the back off, and then you'd stick it down. But for these purposes. And then you'd get left with this cool design, and you'd keep doing this, and then maybe you could cover your holes or even leave your holes exposed, your screws exposed, so you could get to it in the future. But anyways, so that's just like a really fun look, and without having to like put a whole sheet down and cut the whole thing apart, because I always feel like I mess that part up. The build looks awesome until I put grip tape on it. Now maybe you're really good at it, I'm not. So anyways, that's about it, guys. I mean, if there's any other questions that you guys have, I'd love to answer them, but in reality, we're good. We are done. We built a whole board. How long has this been, Addie? 1 hour and 46 minutes. That's not bad. So, like this kit, you guys also could do this in this amount of time. I mean, it'd probably take you a little longer if you've never done it before. I don't want to mislead you with how long it might take. But honestly, this is solid. Now, I didn't use any Loctite also. That also will slow things down. You guys need to add Loctite. If you were to use these basic washers from the hardware store, these do not have Allen nuts. So you want to make sure you hit that with Loctite. You want to hit those with Loctite. You want to hit this back of this with Loctite. What you don't need to hit with Loctite is this bolt, the center bolt, but you do want to hit these bolts with it. And then you don't need to do your truck hardware either. So, yeah. So anyway, I feel like I'm so sweaty. Building this whole thing has just got me out of breath. Yeah. So I feel like I've accomplished something today. Is there anything else that anyone wants to know about?
There are a few questions that we didn't really get to, but they're kind of more specific to people's boards. So I would definitely say if we didn't get to your question, please shoot us an email. We'd love to help you out there. But I know looks like it's 3 a.m. for some people, 1:36.
Oh, wow.
So
You guys are champs. Thank you guys
committed.
so much for watching.
We also have a viewer that says that they remember you from your first video and just now came back and rediscovered your channel and saw your progress.
Oh, that's
and everything.
amazing.
So
Thank you guys so much. Like, I can't even believe that one video changed our lives so much. Like, just by posting that video, they're not even thinking of it. I was getting like 100 views a video, making videos for fun, and then that video got 400,000 views out of nowhere, and I'm like, what? And it's just brought me so much closer to like this as a hobby, as a job, as to you guys. It's just like I just am so thankful that like that all happened the way it did.
yeah, I would definitely say we have a pretty great community. Just looking at the comments too, I mean, you know, everyone's helping each other out, and
Yeah, absolutely.
it's been great. So you guys have been awesome.
So I'm excited. So now really quick before I leave, will you guys come back? Is 2 o'clock good? If we do this Sunday next week, will you guys be down to watch maybe like a Q&A? Maybe everybody get their board. Maybe here's a good thing. If you've built a board already, we can have you maybe send some pictures in, and I'll review or maybe review your board. Maybe talk about it. Maybe I could even critique it or something. Or if you haven't built a board yet, you can send me a part list, and I'd be happy to go through it and show you maybe what you should do instead, or talk about that. If you guys are into something like that, we can just have more of a conversation instead of a build. I'd be down, but I just can't build another board next week. This is a lot of work. I'm tired. but maybe we can do something more conversational.
Yeah, and definitely we will do more builds in the future. So
Oh
send
yeah,
us
no, definitely.
Your
Just not next week.
recommendations, what you want to see, and
Yeah.
even just regular video ideas, not lives, just
Yeah, and even video ideas, just because I sometimes I don't realize what people need help with. Like in the back of my head, I know how to do some of this stuff, but I don't realize that some people may not, and I have maybe sometimes trouble understanding that this is a fuzzy subject for some people. So if you don't understand something, let us know, because I love to make videos about stuff. So
yeah, I never feel silly for your questions because
yeah, no, I mean 3 years ago I was literally Googling like the difference between an amp and a volt. I had no idea. Well, now I do, but I didn't before. But that's just, in 3 years I've learned as much as I possibly could. So, you have to start somewhere. All right, well, I think that's good. I think some of you at 3 a.m. go to sleep. I think it's time for you guys to go to sleep. I'm gonna go relax for a minute. I'm gonna go reply to some emails because I have to do that now. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. If you're not following us on Instagram, that's the best way to get in touch with us for sure, as far as just saying hi and stuff. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for enduring almost 2 hours of a build. That is amazing. Thank you guys so much. But have a good rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one.